All of you know that agriculture is a $70+ billion industry to North Carolina. It's the largest industry by far in the state. And it's the largest, and by far we think is certainly the most important industry in North Carolina. Of that 70 billion, the part that we're going to talk about today is what we call the farm gate value. That's about $10 billion. And you heard on the video Deborah Johnson talk about that $10 billion, the farm gate value. That is the part that goes back to our farmers, our producers of crops, livestock. And of that $10 billion, ladies and gentlemen, of that $10 billion, it's the farm gate value. Two-thirds of that farm gate value is attributable to poultry and livestock. And you say here in Pasquotank County or any county where there may not be a large livestock presence, is that important to me as a producer of wheat, corn, soybeans? You bet it is. And why is that? Because of the feedstocks. You know, here in North Carolina, we feed about 300 million bushels of corn annually. We only produce about 100 million bushels. So we have to bring in about 200 million bushels of just corn to feed the livestock and poultry in this state. It's big business. Today we're going to talk about some of those. We've got some folks that are going to talk about the importance of those industries to our agricultural economy and to the total economy of the state of North Carolina. First of all, when you talk about our $70 billion agricultural industry, there's nobody that's more important, that's a bigger supporter or a bigger promoter of that industry than our Commissioner of Agriculture. And we're honored today to have Commissioner Steve Troxler here with us. I see Steve Troxler on a weekly basis, not every day, because he's on one end of the state one day and in Raleigh the next, and he's all over this great state as well as across the nation, helping lead not only our state's agriculture, but leading the national industry as well. But Steve Troxler, as all of you know, is a farmer from Guilford County. I've watched him lead and grow in this Department of Agriculture, lead this department, lead our state's industry into the national prominence that it is today. We were with him yesterday. He's been in northeastern North Carolina for 2 days now. Came down yesterday for the 100th celebration of the anniversary of the Tidewater Research Station. He was in Windsor this morning, and he's here today. He has a very busy schedule, a tight schedule. At this time, I present to you your Commissioner of Agriculture, Commissioner Steve Troxler. Commissioner.
Larry, thank you for that introduction, and I thank all of you for being here today. I know you're all leaders in your communities, and we want to make sure that the message gets out about agriculture in North Carolina and its importance to this state. And I can't say it enough. Larry's already said it. Over $70 billion is what the agriculture and agribusiness industry contributes to North Carolina. The good news is we know the recession we've been through. We grew agriculture and agribusiness during this recession. So what that says, this is the big bedrock industry of the state of North Carolina. And I'm trying to convince people that, okay, let's step back and take a look. If we want to be successful as a state, then what direction should we take? Well, my point is, you know you have a $72 billion industry. This industry can very quickly grow to $100 billion. And if that's the case, then give us a little help here, understand us. And the message is revere agriculture, embrace agriculture, and use agriculture to help your communities. And if we do that, then I think we will quickly get to this $100 billion that I would like to see us at. And we're going to be much better off as a state. You know, I want to call your attention to this little card that all of you have on the table, and it talks about where we rank nationally in some of the crops. And this is just the beginning of the story. These are the very top rankings that we have, but I mean, even other crops like strawberries, we rank number 4 nationally. Blueberries, number 3 nationally. And the list goes on and on. This is a diverse agricultural state, and I marvel when I come to this end of the state at the size of the agriculture and the importance that there is up here. 2 years ago, I was the president of the Southern Association of Departments of Agriculture, and I actually flew all of those commissioners out here just so that I could brag. I'm proud of the industry that we have here and proud of what we do, and they can't talk enough about what they saw. Nobody really realized that North Carolina had an end of the state like the Northeast where agriculture is so great. So just be proud of that, and like I say, embrace it, and we're going to move forward with this industry. When I talk about a $72 billion industry in North Carolina, that's a lot of money. And if you want to compare it, the military is a huge industry in North Carolina. That's about $25 billion. And we all know what tourism means to North Carolina from one end of the state to the other. That's $15 billion. That's how big agriculture and agribusiness is in this state, and just keep that comparison in your mind. And here today we're talking about our animal industries in North Carolina and what they bring to the state. 66% of the farm gate receipts now are from our animal industries, primarily the pork and poultry industry. At a time when we transitioned from being the tobacco state and being almost totally reliant on tobacco, we transitioned into diversity in North Carolina. We got into the livestock business in a large way. We got into sweet potatoes. We got into fruits and vegetables. And now the grain crops are also very, very lucrative, and we still rank #1 in tobacco in the United States. So the message here is, we have opportunities, and these livestock industries have provided the stability to get us to the point that we are so diverse, and they are so important to almost every farm across the state. If you think about it, not only are these livestock industries providing this money at the farm gate, but they're also the markets for the grain that we grow in North Carolina. And there's a little bit of a paradox here. As Commissioner of Agriculture, it is my goal to satisfy every commodity group in the state of North Carolina on the same day. I have job security. I don't think it will ever happen. And the reason is, if grain prices are high like they are now, then we know that it's going to hurt the integrators that are in the livestock industries with feed costs. So there's the one way and the other way, and the thing that needs to happen is we've got to meet that balance, and sooner or later that balance will be achieved if we let the markets work. The one thing that I know as a farmer, and it's, if you put a profit margin in front of a farmer, we're going to go plant that crop and be successful. In fact, I'll go further than that. My philosophy as a farmer is, if you put a big enough profit margin in front of farmers, they will farm their way out of the profit margin very quickly. And we've seen that happen more and more. You put $8 corn out there next spring, you're going to see tremendous planting intentions. You put $18 beans out there, you're going to see tremendous plantings of beans. The only thing that I see happening right now with worldwide demand, do we have enough capacity to be able to meet demand now? If we do, then my philosophy of agriculture will still hold, and we will produce what the world demands and do it efficiently. But I do want to mention that when I see these worldwide projections for food demand at 50% more by the year 2030, 75% by the year 2050, it makes you step back and think, can we do that? How in the world can we meet that much demand? It's going to mean we've got to be more efficient, because we're going to have less land, we're going to have less water, we probably will have less inputs, and the one thing I know is the weather's never going to change. You can talk about climate change or whatever, and that discussion goes on, but it's always going to be too wet, too dry, too cold, and too hot. That's what we deal with, and that's what we'll continue to deal with. So then the question becomes, how can we do this? And there's one answer. With all the other things that are variable, it's agricultural research. And that research is going to be so important to our future. But if I go to the legislative building and I say, we need to really do more agricultural research, not less, and they'll say, well, you know what the budget's like. Well, yeah, I do. And they say, well, let's look at it next year, but then we'll look at it the next year, and we'll look at it the next year. And agricultural research is kind of like planting an oak tree. You plant an acorn today, and yes, you see it grow, but it takes a while for this to bloom for the full benefit. So, we've got to concentrate on agricultural research. I just returned from the national meeting in Des Moines, Iowa, and represented North Carolina, and now have picked the gavel up as the president of the national organization. And I came back even more energized, I think, than I had ever been about the future of agriculture. And I almost believe we're on the cusp of another agricultural revolution, and it's going to be driven by technology. And when I see some of the things that are happening with technology and the ability that we will have maybe even 5 years from now, it's absolutely amazing. But the thing that makes me even more energized is when I see the kind of money that private industry is investing in agricultural research. It tells me that they have that same vision for the future of agriculture that I have. And that is very, very bright. And it ranges all the way from crops up to the production tools that we use and the things that we can incorporate into that. And the only thing that worries me is a little bit as I look out here at the farmers and I look at my hair, Larry Wooden's hair. It's, you know, we're 57, 58 years old on average, and we've got to go through a generational change here very shortly. And the people, what I know is the younger people that have been involved in this technology since they were born, they're going to be much more better equipped probably to deal with it than I would learn it at this age or Larry learn it. So even that future, I think, is very, very bright if we handle it correctly. What's going to bring young people back to the farm and into agriculture? Number one is economics. There's always been that way. Can you bring another son or daughter back to the farm, or multiple sons and daughters, and all of you make a living? And I think with the diversity that we have in agriculture right now and the opportunity, I think the answer is becoming more yes, we can. The second thing I think that is occurring, and it's amazing to me, is the attitude about agriculture. I come from, I farmed for 38 years, and at times, you know, I felt like, you know, the public looked down on agriculture and agricultural people. Today, we have food chains in North Carolina that want us to go recruit farmers to grow products for them to sell at retail, and then they want to have a full-size picture cutout of the farmer standing in the produce aisle so that people know it was a farmer that produced it. That is a market change in attitude toward agriculture. This is good. And those two things in itself are, I think, are very, very important. But it also is there needs to be a change of attitude, I think, in leadership across the state and in municipalities, county government, about agriculture and how you view it. I think for a long time in this state, we viewed agricultural land as just the next opportunity to develop. And I think that that was the case. I think now we need to look at agricultural land as an opportunity, as a business, as open space, as wildlife habitat, as a place where water is purified and goes into the ground. So that's what I'm saying. Revere these farms. They're something that you can't imagine, and if you step back and look at it, we can't afford to lose them. We can't be a $70 billion industry if we lose another 1 million acres of farmland in the next 10 years like we just did. We can't lose 6.6 million acres of farmland like we did between the year 1970 and 2010 and be the $100 billion industry that I want to see in the future. So I think that is a change of attitude that I would ask you to look at. We have the Farmland Preservation Trust Fund in the Department of Agriculture, and what we're trying to do is actually preserve farmland and keep people on the farms and bring that next generation of farmers back into agriculture. National statistics show that if you have a farm and it's paying in local taxes and taxes to the state, then it only takes about 34 cents of the dollars paid in to maintain that farm for infrastructure from a county's perspective or a municipal perspective. But if you develop it, that goes to over $1, about $1.15. So, you know, I do simple math, but the simple math tells me when you convert a farm into something else, then probably the end result is going to be a tax increase because of the increased need for infrastructure. So, you know, I would hope that people would look at farms as a business, look at them as a successful business, and figure out how to work with them to keep them in business. And the livestock industry in this state is a huge part of that, and we have technology coming on the horizon that's going to involve the livestock industries of this state. And let's all take the attitude that, you know, this is really good for the state of North Carolina, and this is really good for what we perceive for the future of North Carolina, and we will continue to be successful. So that's my message today, and I really appreciate everybody being here. And Larry, if I could, I would like to ask your indulgence to be able to hit the road and travel again. My wife would like for me to come by home, and I'm about 5.5 hours from there right now. So I think I'm going to go by and say hello and pick up some fresh clothes before I hit the road again. Thank you.